Welcome to Create Wealth Through Franchising. I'm your host, Kim Daly. Whether you're a CEO, a military vet, a real estate investor, or simply in career transition and ready to take ownership of your future, with each episode, you're going to learn valuable insights and hear inspiring stories from within the franchise industry. On that note, my guest stories are their own. And as a franchise consultant, I do not make personal brand endorsements or earnings claims, but I do educate, motivate, and inspire dreams. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to Kim Daly TV. Our special guest today, he brought the StretchLab to a whole other country, that Canadian country right above us. So welcome to the studio of Kim Daly TV, David Moskowitz. David, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a fun conversation because I hear great things about you and what you're doing up there in Canada. So why don't you warm up my audience a little bit? Tell the followers of Kim Daly TV a little bit about the journey you were on when you started looking for something different and ended up thinking about a franchise and ended up at the StretchLab.
Yeah, so it started back in 2020, really. That was my journey into spending a lot of time in California and opened up a small business on our own in California doing cleaning and disinfecting during the pandemic. It ran that for about a year and a bit. And then in 2021, we were thinking of opening up another business. Started looking around while we were in California for other types. And I say we, me and my wife. So we spent a lot of time in California, in Orange County specific, was looking to open up another business, came across StretchLab one late night doing a Google search and found that there was a StretchLab for sale privately. So I made an appointment to see if we can get in for a stretch. I couldn't get in for one. It was so packed. It was like a 2-week booking. So I said to myself, what kind of business is so packed that we can't get into it for a stretch? And what is a stretch anyways? I had no idea. I had been doing fitness for a while in my own personal life. I have a background in law enforcement for about 25 years and was into stretching, but not personalized one-on-one stretching. So I was able to make an appointment with a friend of mine who he got in, but I wasn't able to. So I went to observe his stretch. So he went in, got for a stretch, went for 50 minutes, and he came out like a bowl of Jell-O. And he was like, that was the best experience of my life. And I was, grilling I feel bad for the front desk sales associate now that I have front desk sales associates, because I was grilling her. I was like, what's this business about? And what's all this about? And so she gave it to me. It was a beautiful location. It opened my eyes up to what stretching is. And my friend at that time, he walked out feeling really good. So I said, you know what, I gotta dive into this and see what kind of business this is. So dove into it with the owner. Unfortunately, we just made the decision not to purchase it. But I said to my wife, we got to bring this to Canada. This is something that we don't have in Canada. It's something that is totally different. It's new. It's fresh. Love the look out of it, and Canadians are just going to love it. So late 2021, we started diving into it with Exponential, going through the process, and we finally made the decision in February of 2022 to purchase the first franchise in Canada. And we were able to, 9 months later, open up our sales. And then January of 2023, we finally opened our front doors. And it's been a wonderful time since then. And we've sort of convinced Canadians that this is the way to go.
What a super fun story. Okay, so from law enforcement to cleaning to stretching. I love it. You're just an entrepreneur all over the place. So are you and your wife from Canada? I was making the leap with you, we got to bring this to Canada. I'm like, why?
Yeah. We are both born and raised in Ontario, Canada, and we have lived our lives here. We both worked for government our whole careers. My wife currently works for the government. I stepped away in 2021. I stepped away from my position and got the business bug ever since that first business, and always felt connected to business. Business runs in my family. My father was in business. My grandfather was in business. So I always felt really connected to it, very entrepreneurial aspects of my career, and sort of just felt the bug and didn't stop there and said, let's do this. So we're continuing forward, and we're now in the process of opening up our second studio for StretchLab. So we will be opening up at the end of October.
So 2 in less than 1 year?
Correct.
I love it. I love the pace. That's so great. So
yes,
when you started thinking about a franchise, like for you, David, what did you see as sort of the biggest advantage to partnering with a franchise to start a business, launching a business, maybe compared to the startup cleaning business that you were doing prior to?
Some of the things that I learned real quick in doing the cleaning business was because it didn't exist in its name, business, and format, I had to invent everything. So I was flying by the seat of my pants and trying to invent marketing and trying to invent processes and trying to invent, cold calling. And there's all bases out there. You can watch YouTube videos, you could read books, you could listen to people online, but you really need to invent everything when you're opening up a company. So looking at StretchLab, knowing that they basically hold your hand and give you, and I always use this analogy, and every time I speak to somebody, they give you the Lego box with all of the instructions, and the picture of what the product's going to look like, and the 1-800 number. So they give you everything, they give you the number, and all you got to do is follow that plan. And that's what attracted me to them. Also, their ability to be transparent in everything they're doing. Coming from a law enforcement background, I'm very skeptical to begin with, and it is very difficult to trust people. But the fact that Exponential basically opened their doors, gave us the ability to connect with people and tell them what we were about, and then learn what the bad portions of the business were. And that's what I really wanted to know. I wanted to know what the negatives were. It's really good to talk about the positives because there's positives in every business. But if you want to invest in a business, you have to understand what the negatives are so that you can prepare yourself for them.
Hey, Daly Coach fans, if you're loving this episode, please do me a quick favor and leave me a 5-star rating and a short review. Your feedback fuels my growth and rankings and shows others that this podcast is valuable. Now, back to the show. When you become a franchisee, this is a partnership. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So setting you up with rose-colored glasses that ends up being like a bait and switch after you get in. We got another one in. And then it's like a whole nother, ball of wax is like, where does that lead anybody? So I'm glad that you mentioned that because, if Kim Daly's anything, she's a myth buster in franchising. And I love helping people just see past their limiting beliefs. And that is definitely a belief that franchisors are just out there to sell the dream. And I don't speak for every franchisor out there. It's part of why I have a business is to guide, the next person to like the good franchisors, the ones like Exponential that really are in it for their franchisees' success. So thank you for saying that. I think we passed over one sort of obvious or maybe not so obvious thing. So you mentioned you were in California in a pandemic in a business that's kind of high touch and it was sold out.
Yeah.
I just had to go back to that, rewind the tape a little bit and be like, did you literally just say that? Like, how is that business even operating in a pandemic?
Right. Yeah. Moving forward, to tell you the truth, I learned why they weren't operating to the ability where they couldn't have me as a customer. It wasn't a good reason. There are downsides to every business, and that was a downside. But I learned later on, now that we've been operating one for a year, I now understand why I wasn't able to make an appointment. And it wasn't a good reason. But it was a good lesson because I was able to take that and remember moving forward that, okay, there was a point where I was trying to get in as a customer to StretchLab and I wasn't able to. And here's the reasons. Now I know why. Looking from the outside, looking in, you think, oh, it's because you're overbooked or you have so many people that you're filling. It wasn't the case. But knowing that, I was able to prevent that for our business here in Toronto.
That's really good. Good for you.
Yeah.
Were there any big hurdles bringing the brand, being the first to market in a new country?
Yeah.
Did everything just sort of cross the border easily, or was there a bigger learning curve here?
Yeah, I coined a phrase from a friend of mine, Grant. So there's obviously since we've purchased, there's been a lot more interest in StretchLab. There's other owners. There's another owner in Vancouver who's a great owner. There's 2 other owners in Vancouver. There's more coming to Ontario. StretchLab is exploding in Canada right now. It's in Vancouver, Calgary. It's really going big, and I'm grateful to be the first. But there was other people along with our journey that had just had some hurdles with opening. And the hurdles with Canada, and one of the phrases that he uses is just get ready for the punches in the face. Because ultimately, because we're in a different country, there are hurdles that you have to jump over, go through, and dodge. There were some hurdles that are difficult opening up in a different country. There was delays with certain contracts, and there's delays with getting stuff over the border. So you have to prepare for that time. And I would say like the biggest thing to prepare for, and I tell every potential franchisee of StretchLab that comes to us for discovery, is be prepared for the 1.3% difference in money. That's probably the biggest thing that you get kicked in the face with, is just the money you're spending is a lot more than what a franchisee would in the States, for example, because of that conversion of money.
Interesting. But you're still able to make it profitable. You're opening your second studio in 1 year.
Yeah.
So tell the followers a little bit about your relationship, your connection to Exponential Fitness. So listen, let me just set this up a little bit. For those who follow my podcast, like, oh, wow, she does a lot of interviews with Exponential Fitness. Well, I do, because I love them. I think of all franchisors I've ever met in 21 years of being a franchise consultant, they are the most world-class franchisor I could offer to anyone, whether you're into fitness or not. Their brands are just well thought out. I think going back to the pandemic, when you think about leadership, my first thoughts about the most amazing leadership I watched were Anthony Geisler and the team at Exponential Fitness. I mean, you've heard me tell the story that the number one company I was helping people get into in the pandemic was Yoga 6, right? That was their newest brand, and we had wide open territory, but I was selling yoga even in California in the pandemic, right? Because of the stories the existing franchisees were sharing about the level of support that was being offered, and PPP money helping their employees, and rent being abated, and royalties being abated. And so it was just outstanding leadership, world-class leadership. And if you're thinking about investing in a franchise, look, that's what you're buying. It's not a widget. It's about a relationship. So when you see a track record of people that are demonstrating unprecedented leadership, I mean, it makes me as a consultant lean in and say, hey, how about you look at Exponential Brands? So that's why I spend a lot of time with these companies, because I just believe it's a great fit for a lot of people. And as you mentioned, David, Stretch right now is in the glory heyday, right? Like I don't know if you know this, David, but I actually placed the very first StretchLab franchisee.
Oh,
yeah, that was me, Kim Daly.
Wonderful.
Yeah, back in 2018, he has been interviewed here on my podcast and tells a great story. I think he now has 4 StretchLabs open in New Jersey at the time of this recording. But I mean, I've been a big fan of Expo and of stretching from the beginning, but it's really great to see where the brand is at this moment. And, that's not to say that they didn't go through a lot of growth challenges, right? Like I've heard the leadership say, look, our model was a little bit wrong in the beginning, but we've got it optimized and efficient. And that's the thing about being in this business for yourself, but not by yourself, is that the franchisor is going to continue to adapt and get better, which makes everybody get better and the unit economics get stronger, right? So it just to kind of set up a little bit about that. So going back to my question, again, you had this entrepreneurial run with the cleaning company, and now you're under what I would consider to be one of the best, most world-class leadership teams in franchising. What do you see are some of the greatest advantages to this partnership for somebody who's out there thinking about going it alone versus buying a franchise? What are your words of advice for them?
So the one thing about StretchLab or Exponential that I like is they don't sell themselves as a fitness company. They sell themselves as a sales company with a fitness product. And that's one thing to me.
I didn't know that.
That is, so that's one thing that attracted me to them as well, is every business out there, no matter what business that you're in, there's a sales portion to it, right? Whether you're B2B or B2C, there's always a sales portion to it. If you master the sale and the actual sale, then it doesn't matter what product you're selling. We could be, instead of StretchLab, we could be Pencil Lab and be selling pencils. It's the sales process that Exponential is really good at. And the fact that they're able to nail down that sales process and give you the basis to make a good sale on the product you're selling, as long as you believe in the product, you can sell it to anyone. And that's one thing I really think that Exponential has done really well, is they've duplicated their process of sales throughout all 10 brands.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so well said. I want to be like, preach it,
Yeah,
right? Because like so many people, they go, I'm going to buy a franchise because I don't want to sell anything. But like, if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money.
Yeah.
Owning a business is about serving customers. And in order to serve a customer, you have to be able to approach a customer, right? So I totally agree with you. The pre-sales effort that Exponential puts into all of their brands is so dialed in that you can open, I don't want to make any earnings claims, but you can open, with membership, with cash flow coming in and take it from there. And that just helps the first-time business owner or multi-time business owner just like ease up, right? When you're taking on fixed costs, but yet you're taking them on with revenue coming in, it's a lot easier to take on the fixed expenses. So that's excellent. Is there anything else that you would like speak to in terms of like key differences between entrepreneurship versus franchisepreneurship, but under the umbrella of world-class franchise, leadership?
Yeah, it gives you the peace of mind. And I always go back to that Lego because it gives you that peace of mind, that 1-800 number that you're just like, okay, I don't know where to fit this little small piece that I stepped on last night that hurt my foot. I don't know where to put it. Where can I put it? And then you call the 1-800 number and they're like, oh, just put it over here. You're like, yeah, okay, I'll just put it here. It's the peace of mind that I didn't have in creating our first business. I didn't have anyone to call. I didn't have anyone to run things by. I didn't have anyone to rely on when I'm pulling my no hair out and trying to understand what is going on. And also, it's not just the actual business of Exponential being there. It's the group of owners that they get together that you can rely on. Like there's a Facebook group for owners that we constantly, all the owners of StretchLab, and I'm sure all the brands have it, but all the owners of StretchLab have access to a Facebook group where you can ask questions. It's like, okay, this is what happened. I need help. And within split seconds, you're getting answers from other owners and you're getting advice from other owners. And then even like Anthony Geisler will chime in on Facebook, and he will chime in if there's an issue and he monitors it. And Verdine, the president of StretchLab, and all of his managers. So they're very accessible. And that's the key to a franchise is the accessibility of that 911, from my background, helpline to being in a franchise as opposed to being an entrepreneur on your own. That's the biggest differences.
Hey, Daly Coach fans, if you're ready to begin your own journey to find the perfect franchise, please email me right now at inquire@kimdaly.tv. My services are totally free for you. That's inquire@kimdaly.tv. Now, back to the show.
For those of you who aren't parents, you might not have caught the little stepping on the Lego in the middle of the night. It really hurts in case you've never done it. I'm guessing you have children, David.
I don't have children, but I was a child who collected Lego. I had hundreds and hundreds of pieces of Lego when I was small. So I know what it's like to step on a piece.
Oh, it's so great. I have 2 boys and I once had a house full of Legos everywhere. I should have invested in stock in Lego.
Yeah. Sure.
And I do love that analogy of, having the Lego pieces. You have to be the builder,
right,
but the pieces and the instructions and the helpline are there to help you execute. And then having this camaraderie that's not, look, we're human, so we like to be competitive with each other. Like, I was the first one in Canada. I'm sure you guys throw that around together. But at the same time, it's not cutthroat competition because we're all shareholders in the same brand. So when I figure out something and I can help you, and what that really speaks to as I listen to you is there's a lot of people out there dreaming of owning a business, but they stay on the sidelines because they try to solve all of the problems now and in the future of a business they haven't even committed to, right? So when you say, look, there's this Facebook group and in seconds you can get answers to the questions you have, I hope that those listeners out there who are that person that I'm speaking to are sort of leaning in and letting go of that a little bit and being like, you know what, maybe I could dare to trust the process and the people that they are in this for my success, because We really are. We really are here. So what advice, let's wrap this up. What advice do you have for those people? Like, you were a police officer and then you jumped into entrepreneurship. I'm kind of curious how you did that. That's one question. But you said you came from a family of entrepreneurs, so that could be, where that little entrepreneurial gene came from. But really, like, what advice, David? They want to hear it from you. What advice do you have to offer to the person who's listening, who wants so badly to change their life, but is just afraid to take the first step and call Kim Daly for a consultation?
Yeah, the first step is always the hardest. My wife always says if it was easy, everyone would do it. It's really the hardest step to take is that first step. You have to understand two things. The first thing you have to understand is risk is very hard to take, and not everyone can appetite risk. So as long as you can appetite some form of risk, then business is where you need to be. The other aspect is you can't be in it for the dollar amount. You have to be in it to do something for people in the human race and the humankind and being humans. You have to be into business because you want to do something bigger than just make money. Money is important, but money can't be your reason to do this. So as long as you can appetite risk and you can do something that's for the greater good, because, look, you open up a franchise, we have 28 employees. Our second studio is going to have 28 employees. That's almost, over 50 people that we're bringing jobs, that well-paying jobs. They can now afford things. It's building the economy. They have futures. They can see their future. They can purchase homes now. They can do things that they weren't able to do before. That is what should be the key to opening up a business and treating people like human beings. And the stretching, to me, was a no-brainer because the product I really believe in.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh. I appreciate you so much. I always say, I'm over here, if you're on audio only and not seeing my face, I'm over here shaking my head and putting my hands over my heart for David. Like, this is a good human, and this is a Kim Daly, colleague, because I say the same thing, right? Like, money is the byproduct of serving people. If you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. If you're chasing the dollars, you're going to be chasing dollars forever. But if you're in this to serve other people, the benefits and the joy and the satisfaction sometimes surpasses what any amount of money you could ever earn would give to you. Like, I 100% understand that from the business that I've been in for 21 years. That was so beautiful. And, look, in terms of the appetite for risk, you're so spot on there too. But the whole reason we do this collectively in a franchise is to mitigate those risks, right? You're not out there diving off the diving board into the deep end of the pool without a safety net. You're leaping into the safety net. And look at the track record and the history of this franchise, and then look at the future of where do they want to go, and is it rational when you look at their success rate to say, is it rational to say, I'm going to be in that successful group, more likely than I'm going to be in the small percentage of people who weren't successful, right? And that's what you do when you work with Kim Daly. My services are free. You know that I want to help you figure this out for you. And my business isn't one of like pushing everybody into franchising. My business is consulting with you to help you learn the truth of what a franchise could do for you, and then help talk you through it. I know I tell people, I'm not going to talk you into it. I'm going to talk you through it so you can be an educated and confident decision maker, whether it's yes or no. So, David, I appreciate the gold and all of the insights that you've shared here today. Is there anything else you want to say in parting? Because you said so many great things.
Yeah, just keep your eye on the reason why you decided to do this to begin with when the times get tough.
Big goals, big vision, stay focused where you are going. Amazing advice. Thank you so much for being my special guest here today on Kim Daly TV.
Thanks for having me.
For those out there who are ready to begin your journey to find your StretchLab or another business, you know that I want to be your daily coach. Please follow the email on the screen right now or reach directly out to inquire@kimdaly.tv. That's inquire@kimdaly.tv. And until next time, my name is Kim Daly, and I want to be your daily coach.
You can find more content just like this on my YouTube channel at kimdaly.tv. And if you're inspired to take the next step to explore franchises matched to you, please email me right now at inquire@kimdaly.tv. That's inquire@kimdaly.tv.